What's going on, everybody? This is KillyWT coming at you with a brand new video, the first video on the channel, finally using Artanis. And not only will this be the first time I'm showcasing him on the channel, but this is actually the first time that I've actually showcased the very first time I've used a brand new hero. And when you see the end result of this game, you'll understand why I chose to go back into my replays to put this on the channel. Now, this won't be a conventional recap video where I'm detailing every single thing that I'm doing and whatnot, because I feel like this video would be better served if I'm actually talking about other things related to the hero. And one thing I'm gonna put out there in advance, like I'm gonna put this out there right away, is that I will not in any way at any point detail what my build is for Artanis, simply because I actually would like to do a build video for him, and it's been a while since I've done a conventional, I guess, me type of build video, a two-parter and whatnot. So I really want to have some time to really grind this character out, get to learn the ins and outs and things like that, and really hash out my build, and then do a video and really go over everything. So without further ado, the one thing that you're definitely gonna notice early on, you're gonna get to see me be a bit noobish with Artanis. Like, obviously he's a brand new character to me, so I don't have all the nuances down. But one thing that I will say though is that it doesn't really take me very long to kind of hit my stride and get going and start feeling like I'm in a bit of a zone, and start to make some plays for my team. So where should I start with where should I start with this? Because again, there's a very clear-cut reason as to why I chose to come back to this. I played only 2 games. Again, I wasn't expecting to be able to upload anything with him, because I am still on my work days right now. Like, I have I believe 2 more days of work before I get my 2 off days, and I can really grind the game. But seeing as I wasn't able to record over the weekend, I decided to make it a point to at least try and play 1 or 2 games with him, just because I've been looking forward to his release for so long now, and it doesn't hurt to have something new on the channel, like, you know, considering that I only had that one Illidan video and that was about it. So, and again, I mentioned just a little while ago, you're definitely going to see a difference between how I play early on, like a lot of the noob factor early on, and then like midway through the game. As the game goes on, you start to see me actually start getting a feel for like Artanis' spots and what he likes to do. And I will go, at the very least, I'll go over one of my mindsets for Artanis that I knew was going to be a little bit different from a number of other players that I've seen using Artanis. So again, where do I want to start? I want to start with my prediction with Artanis. When I first heard about his release, when they first made the comment about him, and my prediction was that he was gonna be basically like Sonya 2.0. And what does that mean exactly? Like, because I've never actually gone over what that means exactly, because Sonya 2.0 could either mean a better version of that hero, or it could mean basically a junior version of the hero, where it's just some like a copycat, basically plays a similar role but just not quite as good. So that was my early prediction. That's why I was so hyped, because Artanis, the only tease they gave about him, the only tidbit of information, was that he was going to be tanky, like a conventional tank or whatever. Not overly tanky, but that he was going to be able to hold his own, like, defensively, but that he was going to deal more damage than you're expecting for a warrior. And the minute I heard that comment from whichever Blizzard rep said it, the minute I heard that comment, like, immediately I started thinking about the fact that he had, like, he was a dual-wielding character similar to Sonya, and that she's the only other one that came to mind as far as being like a hardcore heavy, like, damage dealing warrior. So the minute they came out with that information saying that he was going to be able to do more damage than you're expecting, right away I was like, okay, so this is going to be another Sonya type, which means he's going to be right up my alley. Like, he's going to be like an ideal, like, hero for me to use, because I had put so much time into, like, really getting used to Sonya, learning her spots and things of that nature. I put a lot of time into her, so I definitely, once they said that he was going to be a damage dealer for a warrior, I already knew, like, alright, this is probably going to end up being like my definite go-to number 2. Like right after Sonya, Artanis is gonna be like my second best hero. And I'm not gonna lie, after I finished this game in particular, I couldn't have felt stronger in that about that opinion, like at all. Like I definitely was happy with how this game ended, how I played in this game, and for sure it was just like that. It was going through my head over and over and over again. Like this is definitely going to be my number 2. Like Artanis could actually end up being the second hero that I get to level 20. That's going to take a long time, and obviously since I'm working now, it's going to take even longer than it would already take. But yeah. So, oh yeah, and again, the other thing I want to point out is that I'm not going to showcase the scoreboard at all. I should have mentioned that at the beginning. I'm a terrible uploader. I'm not going to showcase the scoreboard at all until the very end of the game. So that's another thing that I'm going to purposely hold back. So, what are some of the things that after he came out last week, I was watching other people using him and things of that nature. There was a lot of mixed reviews. There were a lot of mixed feelings. Am I alive right now, or... It says I'm alive. I can't find myself though. Hey, there I go. Again, I'm a terrible uploader. Sticking with the point. I was seeing a lot of mixed reviews, like a combination between like what some other people were saying in other venues. I saw some comments on some of my videos about Artanis. You know, basically saying like that the enthusiasm was actually like appreciated, I believe was the exact comment, but that Artanis ultimately is very, very underpowered, like he has no damage and things of that nature. And it's not just something that I saw in my comments, but I actually saw like other players saying the same thing, that like certain elements of him, like there was he has no damage and his movement is weird, and like there were a lot of complaints about his Q, because it's a double dash instead of just like a way to escape, and you know, every single complaint you could hear. And the one thing I always maintained, I even said this in my own comment section to that one viewer in specific, is that at the time of those mixed feelings, and still now, let me not even say it like he's not new now, but the point is that he's a new hero. So new heroes do not get figured out in a day or two, sometimes not even in a week. So there has to be a little bit of a I guess a grace period or a little bit of patience when it comes to new heroes, because I brought it up in the comment section. Maybe I even brought it up in one of my videos, but Rexxar was loathed when he first came out. People hated him. He had that warrior label, he had the bear, and then like he came out, and it wasn't just because he was glitchy and buggy, but people legitimately hated him. Like they said the bear was too hard to control, that Rexxar himself was not tanky, like he was too squishy, that he wasn't a tank at all, that he should be more of a specialist. And there was so many complaints. And then his win rate, like coming out, was super low as a whole, like the community win rate. And then all of a sudden, 3 or 4 weeks go by, people start finding new ways to use him, people start realizing exactly how he's supposed to be used, and that win rate started to go up as a whole. So, and maybe the opinions even started to go up. Rexxar's still not a popular pick, but he's definitely a good hero in his own way in certain spots. So, again, the whole point of bringing that up was that people had a general opinion about him when he first came out, and then that opinion might have changed after 3 or 4 weeks. And there's no reason to think that, you know, the negative opinions about Artanis when he first came out won't change after 3 or 4 weeks, when people really, where you start to see, like, when he starts to hit a point where everybody's using a similar build, and he's been figured out in that way by the community, where everybody's basically, you know, on the monkey see, monkey do tip. Once he hits that status, don't be surprised if like the opinions about Artanis start to change, and all of a sudden people start to like him a lot. The other complaint I heard a lot about was that his heroic, the laser, did not do any real damage. It's like on paper, it definitely like made it seem like it does a ton of damage, but then when people were like first using it, there were a lot of complaints saying that it was underpowered. Now, I will openly admit, when I heard those complaints, I thought it was just like players were not using the ability right, which to some degree that was actually the case. But the other thing that I openly acknowledge I did not know was that I thought the laser initially when I first saw it, I thought the laser was a guaranteed hit. Like I thought it was guaranteed damage, basically, like almost akin to the triple tap. And I had no idea that the laser had to like chase people down and that it was slow. So once I saw that, I kind of understood where the complaints were coming from as far as it like not having damage and stuff like that. But then even then, when I was seeing people like not using it right, I still had other ideas about how to use it, how to like make it work, because even if you can't do damage with the laser, there's still a pretty good, like, you know, crowd control element to it. Kind of like Hyperion from Raynor. Same idea. You queue it up, it makes people clear the fuck out. Only with Artanis, it's not an ability that hits like an entire team at the same time. It hits only one person. So last week, like when I was watching everybody playing, like my mind was like going crazy trying to think of ways to use it, because I was seeing everybody trying to use it and nobody getting any real damage for a while. Like the latter half of last week, I started seeing people like finding ways to get it to make the damage work. And long story short, if you use the Purifier Beam to finish kills rather than do damage to get you closer to a kill, it's a completely different heroic in its own right. It becomes a whole nother animal, basically. Especially if you get that extra upgrade at level 20, where like finishing kills with it automatically triggers it on another target of its choosing. With the right timing and the right situations, that could be like a really good damage dealing ability. But again, that wasn't really discovered until the latter half of the week. So getting back to what I was saying before, like as far as thinking of ideas and ways to use it, before people started catching on to how to make the damage work with it, my thought process was actually to use it as a form of crowd control, and because basically you have to respect the laser when it's on you. You can't just stay there taking the damage. You have to avoid it. And the thing is, it's so slow when it chases that it's easy to avoid. So it's like, why wouldn't you? If it's easy to avoid, why wouldn't you avoid it? So my thought process is in team fights to queue up the laser on the lead tank, on the front line guy, so that he's not doing his job comfortably. If you have that laser on the tank, he has to address it. He has to move around, and if he's moving around, he's not necessarily like peeling for his team and soaking damage. Instead, he's trying to spend like 4 or 5 seconds avoiding my laser, which 4 or 5 seconds without the tank peeling us could be all we need to actually go for a team wipe. And that was just one way that I thought about using it. It's not something that I saw anybody actually attempt to do. It's not something that anybody like thought of as far as like, you know, like making it known what they were thinking. If somebody thought about it, I didn't hear them voice it. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. But yeah, that was just one thought before, you know, it came to light that you had to finish people with it rather than initiate with it. The other thing that now that we're talking about abilities that seem kind of seemed underpowered to people at first, the phase shift. I believe that's Artanis' E ability. That's another one that I thought people were using wrong, because I saw a lot of complaints. And I understand the complaints, but I still don't feel like it's a problem because I already know how to deal with it. But there were a lot of complaints saying that the range of the E ability was too short. You see, that was a very poorly executed laser right there. But yeah, there were a lot of complaints saying that the range of the shift ability was too small, and my thing is with Artanis that I noticed a lot of people, especially people that pick Zealot Charge at 16, that's one thing I'll give away. You will not be seeing me pick Zealot Charge at 16 at all, and it doesn't backfire. But a lot of people have this mindset with Artanis that you have to be able to dash in and dash out, basically. Like, he has to have a gap closing ability in order to be effective. Well, for me personally, one way that I go against that is that I flat out walk into targets. Like the person that I'm trying to engage, the target that I'm trying to initiate and peel, or however you want to put it, I'm not afraid to walk right up on them and start swinging, because Artanis is built. He is actually built to take that damage. Like, he's at his best when he's halfway dead. So while I'm trying to walk up, while I'm walking through damage to get to my target, no gap close ability, no nothing. I'll just walk right into it. While I'm walking into that damage, they are putting me in a position where by the time I get to them, I'm halfway dead, and all of a sudden I'm at my best. Instead of dealing with a tank that's halfway dead, they're dealing with a tank that's actually in his prime because he's halfway dead. It's a completely different, like, situation from a conventional tank. A conventional tank, if a conventional tank is halfway dead, is halfway dead, then, you know, you're limiting his window to his or hers, their window to peel for their team, to soak damage. You're cutting that in half, just like their health bar. With Artanis, it's the opposite. When he's halfway dead, depending on how you build him, everything he does, it just skyrockets in viability. Everything he does. And if you build him for it, he just keeps getting that shield back in a matter of seconds. So it makes him almost Johanna-like in that way, because if the shield keeps popping up, then, you know, it's kind of hard to take him out. But yeah, so that's one thing that's different about how I use him. I'm not afraid to walk into a bad situation, because I know that Artanis can deal with it. He'll be just fine. Like, again, he's in his element when he's halfway dead. Even if you don't build him for it that way, he still has a certain level of viability when he's halfway dead, even if you don't spec into his shields at all and things of that nature. But a lot of people were struggling to, like, really catch on to that. They weren't figuring that out, so that's on them. That was their loss. Yeah, that whole week last week, I was just sitting around just waiting for today to come, for a Tuesday to come, so that I could get my own stab at it and whatnot. And I didn't want to put down anybody's opinions about Artanis, and, like, talking about how weak he is and that he's not, you know, he's not this, he's not that. Like, everybody has a right to have their own opinion, but because at the end of the day, like, that's what it is. It's just an opinion. Like, even my opinions doesn't mean, like, you know, what I think is right or anything like that. It's just my opinions. But I literally sat the whole week watching people play, seeing how they were using him, and I didn't see anything from anyone that made me think for 1 second that Artanis was not the hero that I've been saying he was going to be for, like, maybe like the past month and a half. I've seen nothing in the past week that swayed me off of that thought process. I was sitting around waiting for my opportunity to get him so that I could showcase exactly what I've been talking about this whole time. So there's 3 minutes left in this game, basically, so I feel like this is an appropriate time to bring it up. In hindsight, after playing 2 games, do I still think that Artanis is going to be Sonya 2.0? And if so, which 2.0 is that? Like 2.0 meaning a better version, or 2.0 meaning not as good version of something that another hero does very, very well? The answer, the short answer to that is yes, I still absolutely believe that Artanis is going to be Sonya 2.0. The long answer is that I think he's going to be 2.0 in the sense that he's going to be better than Sonya. I think his damage output is going to be a lot better than hers. It's going to be easier to come by damage with Artanis because he has abilities that hit multiple targets. Unlike her, unlike Sonya doesn't really have abilities that hit multiple targets. The most she has is the whirlwind, and you know how I feel about the fucking whirlwind. If you have If a player is smart, anytime they see that whirlwind come out, they're just gonna stun you. So, and I mean, I do the same thing to Sonya every time I play against her. The minute I see people trying that little whirlwind on me, I just stun them. And like, what can they do? Nothing. So, I think that's the difference. That's one of the ideal differences between Artanis and Sonya that I think he's going to give him a bit of an edge is that he has the double dash that can hit multiple targets, and it really, really, if you're using it correctly, it really, really adds up. So that's just one thing. The other thing is that if Sonya walks into a situation, like if she walks face first into damage, she gains fury, sure, but that's about it. She actually takes the damage and becomes a little worse for wear because of it. Artanis, on the other hand, like I mentioned earlier, if he takes enough damage, he actually gains a shield. He gains a shield and becomes a better version of himself, depending on how you build him, depending on how you spec into him. So that's another reason why I think he's going to be better, because he can actually tank to some degree, like, or especially if you spec into like a defensive build, Artanis can frontline no problem. And yes, Sonya has a bunch of defensive talents waiting on the second half of her talent pool, but that's a long time to wait before she can take damage like that. Artanis can do that from the onset. So again, even defensively, I think he's going to be a better version of what she does. I think that they absolutely serve the same purpose, but in slightly different ways. I think they can basically carry out the same jobs, but again, in different ways. See, look, I take damage right there, and the shield just pops right up. No problem. And you see what it leads to right there. It just leads to a bunch of enemy players going down one by one. So it adds up after a while, man. It really, really does. And then the thing is that Sonya is devastating when she has medic support, like dedicated medic support. If there's a word, if there's a word to really, really use for Artanis from what I've seen, it's devastating as well, but like ×2. Like it is crazy how good he is when he has proper support. So yeah, I definitely think that he's exactly what I thought he was gonna be. And my first game, I pretty much used him exactly the way I thought I would. So now that the game is actually over, and you saw how we won that game, you're going to update the kills here. We had 30 kills to the enemy's 21 kills. And now bringing up the scoreboard, you see that if you look at the bottom of the screen, we were able to put out 75,000 hero damage, which was by far the most in the lobby. Again, this was my very first game with Artanis. I had no practice with him. The only thing, literally the only thing I had was research into the build I was going to use, because I knew exactly how I was going to build him up, and that was about it. But 75,000 damage. 75,000 damage. And nobody else on either team is even remotely close. The only one that's like kind of up there, as you see, is the Leoric at 50,000. So I kind of like last week when I saw the reviews and I saw the comments and this, that, and the third, and I saw the words underpowered coming out, but I was watching, like, I wasn't watching numbers. I was watching how people were playing. I was watching how people were using him, and I laughed. I honest to God laughed, but I don't like. I'll never be that guy unless you're disrespectful, unless you're trying to troll the channel, like troll me, troll another viewer that's commenting on one of my videos. I will never bash somebody for having an opinion. I'll never do it. But that doesn't mean that if I see certain things said that I don't find it comical, because I know I can kind of prove otherwise. And this is just my first game. The game I played after this, I led in hero damage again for the lobby, and I led my team in damage soaked, and I was playing, we got paired up. We had a very, very, like, weird composition where we had two supports. We had a Murky, and then we had Stitches rounding out the team. and I was still like with no defensive talents picked whatsoever. I was still able to outsoak damage wise. I was able to outsoak the stitches, and I led in hero damage again, despite the fact that we lost the game. Um, Artanis is exactly what I thought he was gonna be. I don't know how else to say it. This is me on no practice, so I'm definitely interested to see like when I really get my game down with him, when I get my spots, and I learned everything that I need to learn as far as how to make him work for me, my style and stuff like that. But this is a glimpse of what it's gonna be like. This is what I thought it was gonna be when I had that hype video that got all those views. This is exactly what I said he was gonna be. A high damage output hero. He was gonna be way stronger than Sonya. Sonya can definitely put up like a 90k game or a 100k game if she stays on it, if you stay on it with her. But it's just the fact that Artanis can do it without anywhere near as much effort, in my opinion. And that's kind of what makes it a little bit different. That game lasted 21 minutes, according to this replay counter. 21 minutes, I was able to put up 75k. That's typically something you see with a Kael'thas or a Jaina. Artanis is a warrior by default. That's his labeling. Sure, he can be a conventional tank if you spec him into it, but he could also be like an assassin if you spec him into that, which clearly I did. I mean, 21 minutes, I put up 75. Imagine if it was one of those prolonged games, you know? Like, if this was a 25-minute, 30-minute game, how much higher would that number have been? And, again, he just has such an easy time. Like, I could already tell. He has such an easier time of doing it than Sonya that it just makes that number and the possibilities that much more impressive. And again, because he has his own manual shields built into his character, when he's halfway dead, that automatically gives him the edge as far as like soaking damage over her too. Now, the one thing I will absolutely say that Sonya will have over Artanis any day of the week, and it's his biggest flaw, his biggest weakness, is that he has no self-healing whatsoever. At all. You see a lot of these heroes have some kind of way to heal themselves without any help. Artanis has nothing. He has no kind of heals whatsoever, and he has no means to escape. So that's two things that, again, a lot of people were complaining about. Those are two things that I won't argue against because those are valid gripes. My thing is, there are ways around. There are ways to deal with the fact that he doesn't have either. And my first game playing, I did a pretty goddamn good job of not having to like recall every 2 seconds, considering that he doesn't have any self healing. Yes, I had the Morales like doing a very good job, but I didn't have her attached to me the entire game. I only received one stim from her the entire game. Like, it's not just the case that I had a healer with me or whatever, or I had Abathur helping me out at times too, giving me as much healing as he could possibly give. But bottom line is there's ways to get around the fact that Artanis doesn't have healing, self-healing, self-sustain. He makes up for it in other ways. Hopefully, because I feel like I've talked enough about this. I feel like I'm rambling now. I'm going to cut this off here. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. There won't be a build, obviously, written in the description. I'm not going to showcase how I built him or anything like that. But again, that's only because I want to do a build video for him at a later date. So I think that'd be more fun. And it's just something I'm looking forward to doing. Again, my very first game with him, we went 28-4. We won the game, which is the most important thing. Didn't do a whole lot of siege damage, but we were able to do 75,000 hero damage, which led the entire lobby. We soaked 56,000 damage points, even though we didn't really spec into defense at all, so that's really not a bad look. Second half of this game, I played very well. And, again, I definitely think this guy is Sonya 2.0. I think he's exactly what I thought he was going to be, and hopefully people don't give up on him. Or maybe I do want them to give up on him, because then it becomes easier for me to pick him in Hero League. I can be selfish about it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. As always, this is Achilles LBT. That's Achilles with the Z. Remember it.